Good evening, everyone. This is RandomDCE with an unofficial HDG. For those of you in the survival horror gaming genre, you will most likely remember Resident Evil. Applauded by most of the gaming community as the best game of the time, the newer games have strayed a little too far from what the original game laid out. Now, I'm probably a minority on these thoughts, but I feel these need to be said to save the series. So, I offer these games a handy-dandy guide to make them more playable, enjoyable, and complaint-free. Step 1. Make the player think more. The one thing that I've noticed is that the more these games progress, more specifically after Code Veronica X, the player is required to think less and asked to shoot a hell of a lot more. I tend to feel this contrasts with what the original games were all about. They forced the player to actually think and solve complex puzzles to progress. This made the game a lot more memorable rather than just making it a stereotypical shooter like it is now. Step 2. Cut back on the ammo a bit. One thing that has changed radically over the years is the amount of ammo you've been given. The original games, you were given very little ammo that was to be used on the bosses, not the smaller enemies. You're given enough ammo this time to take on a small army. Again, the game is being made into a shooter, not a survival horror. Step 3. Bring back the zombies. The zombies worked for the Resident Evil series because they created an atmosphere of quiet dread while they were on the screen. The player could choose to either carefully evade them, or take a chance and waste precious ammo to see if they were carrying anything. Replacing them with villagers, monks, and soldiers kind of took away from that effect. Again, that went hand in hand with making the game more shooter-friendly, but honestly, taking zombies out of Resident Evil was the stupidest move Capcom could have made. Step 4. Game atmosphere. The original games had a very quiet atmosphere. It was hard to tell sometimes if you were the only one in the room or not. This, along with the camera angles and lighting, made just turning a corner terrifying. Sounds were another thing that made the atmosphere in these games. Now, I will give some of the newer games credit that the sounds still work pretty well. However, do we really need music to play for every enemy we come across? In games like this, sometimes less is more when it comes to a soundtrack. The silence is just as scary as hearing a loud thump. Step 5. Get back to basics. This step pretty much sums up my thoughts on the issue. Take what made the earlier games great and use it. Not everything has to be easy for everyone, but not everything has to be hard either. And as a side note, I'm not saying that the newer games are bad. They're great games. I love playing them. It's just that they're not great Resident Evil games. They just started to move in a direction that is not true to what the original series was. Well, I hope you enjoyed this unofficial HDG. I know it was a little short, but I get straight to the point most of the time. If you like this video, please feel free to rate, subscribe, comment, whatever you wish. If you didn't like this, leave a comment. Constructive criticism would be greatly appreciated. And this has been RandomDCE, and I bid you all a good night.